Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we have already completed the du'as of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and the du'as of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, and now we're moving to the du'as of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So there are 5 places in Quran al-Kareem which mention du'as that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm going to do them in the order in which they appear in Quran al-Kareem. So the first is Surah Baqarah, Surah 2, verses 126 to 129. The second is Surah Ibrahim, named after Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, Surah 14, verses 35 to 41. The third is Surah Ash-Shu'ara, Surah 26, verses 83 to 89. The fourth is Surah As-Safat, Surah 37, verses 99 to 100. And the fifth will be Surah Al-Mumtahana, Surah number 60, verses 4 to 5. So we begin first with Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, verses 126 to 129. Now, obviously the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam is very deep and very wide. And like Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam also had a whole surah named after him, Surah Nuh. Also Surah Nuh, same here, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam has a whole surah named after him, Surah Ibrahim. So again, because of shortage of time, and this series is specifically about the du'as, I will not be teaching the entire life story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Suffice it to say that if you look up these 5 passages in Quran and look at the verses before and after them, you will get an idea of his whole story. One thing I will just want to say to you on this is so that you understand this particular aspect of Quran al-Kareem. And that is that why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in many cases, split up narratives in different passages? So that's not always the case. For example, the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam is in one surah, Surah Yusuf, all there in one stretch. But when you have Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, different aspects of his life story are found in these 5 different sections of Quran that I mentioned to you. So the ulama have mentioned different reasons for this. The first reason is that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam's story and who he was is so critical that one way to highlight its essential importance in our deen is to make it a frequently oft repeating and reoccurring theme throughout and across the Quran al-Kareem. Second way you can understand the same point is that the story and lessons to be learned from the life of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam were so critical and essential and so important to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam that parts of the story were revealed and then other parts were repeated and reinforced throughout the 22 years of Sirah. Third, the manner in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will divide this story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam in these different 5 places is that each of the surahs that contain these passages is the perfect background and context with which to situate this particular part of the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. So for example, in Surah Baqarah, in this passage, verses 126 to 129, is going to be mention of the dua that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam made for the establishment of Makkah Mukarramah, right? And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts that dua. So it's going to be about the duas that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam made for Makkah Mukarramah and at the raising and reconstruction of the Kaaba. And that is something that fits very well within the other theme and content and narratives in Surah Al-Baqarah. Alright? So just like the context highlights this passage, the fourth point is that the passage highlights the context. So Surah Baqarah is the perfect ring for this diamond, which is the story, this part of the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. At the same time, the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam is the perfect chocolate sprinkle on the vanilla ice cream scoop that is Surah Baqarah. It's just an example I'm giving. Don't take that very literally. Alright? Okay. So verses 126 to 129. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ مَنْ آمَنَ مِنْهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. So this is the dua that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam meant. First, Ya Allah, make this whole city, هَذَا بَلَدًا, all of Makkah Mukarramah, what? First and foremost, what? A place of aman. Now, if you remember just today, just lucky for us that we did this, right? But was one thing that we saw today in our discussion of the fourth juz, we found this ayah, Allah Ta'ala said the same thing. That what is Baytullah? Man dakhalu kana amina. Whomsoever enters it is in a state of aman. So this was the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam mentioned in 2:126, and Allah Ta'ala's declarative statement showing that He's accepted the dua of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, or rather it was the will of Allah Ta'ala anyway, and dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam coincided with it, right? That you can look at it both ways, that it is a place that has aman. Right? And that's very interesting, and you would see this in the Arabic language, that aman and iman are coming from the same root, right? And in one linguistic sense, iman means the creation of aman. So those of you who study sarf, this is if'al, right? Iman is the creation of aman. So you get aman, safety and sanctity and security from kufr when you adopt iman. You get aman, safety, security and sanctity from the fire of Jahannam when you adopt iman. And therefore iman and aman are closely linked towards one another. And that's why this word has been used in the dua of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, that the first and foremost thing he wanted for the whole, not just Baytullah, the precinct or the mataf, all of Makkah Mukarramah should be a place of aman. Second, now you can think emotionally, Nabi Ibrahim is looking at this place, and yes, Allah Ta'ala guided him to build his house of worship here, and most likely we can speculate that Allah Ta'ala must have guided Nabi Ibrahim about Makkah Mukarramah, about Baytullah, how Adam first built it, etc., etc. But Nabi Ibrahim is looking around him and seeing it's a completely barren valley. And he's worried about his ummah. He's worried about humanity. He's worried about humanity when they become guided and they come to worship. So then the second thing he asks, وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ, and Ya Allah, please provide sustenance to its inhabitants with thamarat, with every type of fruit, of every type of thing. Which ones? Man amana minhum billahi wal yawmil akhir. Who should have the aman and who should have the rizq? Those who live here, who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day. Now this is kind of a foretelling that it's not always going to be pure believers who live in the sacred precincts and the sacred city of Makkah Mukarramah. And also Allah Ta'ala, by revealing this in Quran al-Kareem, is addressing first the mushrikeen, that don't think you're special because you're Ahl Makkah. No, the special ones of Ahl Makkah are which ones? Man amana minhum billahi wal yawm al-akhir. Those from amongst them who believe in Allah Ta'ala and the last day. Qala. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies to the dua. Now, when you see this, this itself is very interesting. And you have this sort of dialogue between Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I was trying to remember, so I can't say 100% because my knowledge is obviously not complete, but from what I can briefly remember, there is, whereas we find this in the case of Ibrahim alayhi salam, I showed you this in the case of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, that the Prophet makes dua and Allah ta'ala replies. We saw that sometimes Allah Ta'ala replies through angels. We saw that in the case of Nabi Zakaria alayhi salam when it came in the tafsir. And interestingly, let me leave. There was a point I had, but I don't want to share it with you just yet. Maybe in a few days I will share that with you, inshallah. So where was I? Going back to verse. We were in 126. So Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had prayed for the people of Makkah Mukarramah, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an ajib reply, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Qala, said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ, and even those who disbelieve, فَأُمَتِّئُهُ قَلِيلًا ثُمَّ اضْطَرُّهُ إِلَىٰ عَذَابِ النَّارِ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. Even those who disbelieve, I will grant them some level of sustenance, rizq, pleasure, enjoyment for a while. But then, thereafter, I will drive them towards the punishment of the fire of Jahannam. And what an evil end, and what was the worst place, the worst abode to end up in. So again, this is addressing the mushrikeen of Makkah Mukarram at the time, and the Quraysh who were not believing in the Prophet ﷺ because they were also wealthy. And so if the passage ended, they would have said that, well, look, we have the thamarat. You're saying the thamarat, the fruits and bounties and worldly material possessions are only going to be given to the ones who have iman. Look at us, we're wealthy, and Makkah is the center of trade, Arabian, etc. So this has already been decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, okay, you're making dua, Ibrahim alayhi salam, for the people of iman, I'm going to give the unbelievers as well. But that's just going to be for a short period of time, for a while. Right? Qalilan. For a short period of time, brief respite, and then ultimately they will have to go and they will be punished in the fire of Jahannam. So this is the interesting response by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, then second dua is in 127, the next verse. Now, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَائِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ. When Ibrahim alayhi salam raised and erected the foundations of the Kaaba, Baytullah, the house of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Ismail alayhi salam and his son, and they made the dua, رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. That, O our Rabb, accept it from us. Indeed, truly, you, our Rabb, are the all-hearing and all-knowing. Alright? So this dua was to actually accept from us, but accept what? Accept the Kaaba. So the kubuliyah of the Kaaba, the kubuliyah of the du'as at the Kaaba, the kubuliyah of the ibadat at the Kaaba, the kubuliyah of the Kaaba being our qibla, our jihad, our direction in which we pray. All of this is also obviously due to the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also due to the du'as of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam and Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. So this is a very big thing, because Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam is a Nabi. Allah ta'ala commanded him to do this. It wasn't his own idea, but still he wants it to be accepted. So this is why we should also, Allah ta'ala commanded us to fast, but we should make dua, then Allah ta'ala accept our fast. So why should we make that dua? The aql won't understand and say, well, you're doing a fard. Of course it's accepted. You're fulfilling the command. You obeyed. You were successful in obedience. You performed the act of submission. No, this is what we learn from Quran al-Kareem. We learn from the humility of the Anbiya, that even if we do what Allah Ta'ala tells us to do, and the manner and how He told us, we should still make dua to Him, that may Allah Ta'ala accept it from us. So this is the dua we should make after every good deed, every act of virtue, every ibadah. That, Ya Allah, accept it from us. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. And this is why many people, even when they just make dua, supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they end their prayers or end their duas with the sentence, رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. You're all hearing. You hear the duas I'm making to you with my tongue, Al-Alim, and you know the duas that are silently there in my breast and my heart. Alright? Okay. Next dua. رَبَّنَا وَاجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمِينَ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً لَكَ وَأَرِنَا مَنَ. Okay, so O our Rabb, number one, make us Muslimin to you. What does it mean? Make us truly submit to you. And then make from our dhurriya, from our progeny, our offspring, our descendants, an entire ummah. Right now it's just father and son, it's just the two of us. Make us entirely submit to you, and then from us onward, make an entire ummah who submits unto you. Allahu Akbar Kabira. So this can include then, we don't say it's just us. This dua of Nabi Ibrahim is what binds the Abrahamic monotheistic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all together. That original Judaism and the true followers of Musa alayhi salam, original Christianity, the true followers of Isa alayhi salam, and Deen of Islam and its true followers, all are united in this dua that they were submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just us that we are the answer to this dua granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Next part of the dua. وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا. And O Allah Ta'ala, show us our manasik, means the rites and methods of worship. So in other words, means show us tawaf, right? That will be the reply to this. Now what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to worship? We've constructed the house of worship, the abode of worship, but now we need to know how to worship. Second is not just tawaf, but the entire rites of Hajj. So this manasik that were taught in Nabi Islam is what you and I perform today, inshallah. What the believers perform in this time, and have performed ever since the time of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are the manasik, or the rites and rituals and practices and methods of worship known as Hajj. Okay? Then, وَتُبُ عَلَيْنَا. And Ya Allah, relent to us, accept our tawbah. Send your mercy and forgiveness to us. Why? Innaka anta at-tawwabur rahim. Because indeed you are the being who is at-tawwab, who is ever relenting and turning towards his believers in love. Ar-Rahim, and the being of everlasting, eternal, absolute mercy, love and compassion. Okay. Then it continues. Verse 129. Rabbana wab'ath fihim rasulam minhu. And O our Rabb, raise from them, send down amongst them, from them a rasul, a messenger from their own selves, who will do what? Yatlu alayhim ayatika. So again, it's nicely corresponding with the tafsir we did earlier today. That who recites to them the verses of your revelation, wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba, and teaches them the meanings of the scripture revelation, wal hikmata, and the ways of wisdom of living, wa yuzakkihim, and purifies them, innaka antal azizul hakim. Indeed you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are al-aziz, almighty, al-hakim, all-wise. And if you saw this carefully, those of you who are for both talks, the order is different. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the last ayah of the first half of the fourth juz, what was the order there? The order first was recitation of verses, second was tazkiyah, was tazkiyah, and third was ta'lim of kitab, and fourth was hikmah. So some of the ulama here said that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam made the dua generally, listing the four functions, and was talking about an aspect of tazkiyah that happens after people are acquainted with the scriptural texts of deen, and secondly learn the meanings of deen, and thirdly they learn and adopt the interpersonal relations, societal codes, hikmah and sunnah. Then they get even further purified through being followers of deen. And Allah Ta'ala was mentioning when He declared that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would have these four functions, that first people will again start, the first one is the same, that they will recite the verses of Revelation, but after the verses, before they can, to prepare the ground for them to learn the meanings of the book and the teachings of wisdom and sunnah, they must be purified. They must be purified. That is called tazkiyah. Alright? So this is the first passage, first set of du'as of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Second is Surah Ibrahim, Surah 14, verses 35 to 41. Okay? وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ آمِنًا. Okay, so that part of the dua is the same, right? The second phrase of the sentence. وَجْنُبْنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامِ. And Allah Ta'ala protect, safeguard me and my children and my progeny and my descendants from ever any one of us or any of the descendants ever being from amongst those people who worship and pray towards idols. Now, some historians have actually said that some of the mushrikeen or pagans of Makkah Mukarramah, they also claim they were Abrahamic, which is quite ironic because Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was the prophet who most famously destroyed and shattered the idols. So now when we look at that, more recent historical research, we can understand this dua even, right? That Nabi Ibrahim This is Allah Ta'ala is mentioning this dua to refute those mushrikeen who they also claimed that they were the followers of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that's why you remember earlier when we did the tafsir, Allah Ta'ala said several times, وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, that he's not from the mushrikeen, he's not from the mushrikeen. The humility here, look at the earlier dua, yes, I want. Earlier dua was also for the progeny and the offspring. But here, the dua is, don't let us ever. So even, Ya Allah, what does it mean? That you have made me a Nabi. You've given me hidayah. You've given me tawfiq. But still, I'm scared lest any of my children descendants fall back into shirk. I don't take it for granted just because you have bestowed upon me Nabuwa that all of my children descendants will be safe. And so this is why we should make one major thing we're learning here is to make lot of dua for our physical offspring, and in any sense if anyone is a helper, guide, caller, teacher of deen, for our spiritual offspring. And this is a fikr we should have. And you will all remember the fikr that Amma Hajra, the wife of Ibrahim also had. So it's very important in the month of Ramadan also to make a lot of du'as for our children and for the children of all of the Ummah and for the coming generations of all the believers and the hidayah of all of the coming generations of humanity. So in other words, simply speaking, think big. Nabi Ibrahim, he made big du'as, and we should also dare to dream and make du'as for humanity and for future generations of humanity, while also obviously making du'a for ourselves and our own parents and our own children. And we should always have this fear that we want all of our descendants from now on until Qiyamah to be on Tawheed, to be on Deen. We never want anyone to slip and become a non-practicing, secular, liberal Muslim, or to slip further and become an agnostic Muslim, or to slip further, na'udhu and become an atheist. So there's fear of future generations slipping. That is so palpable, and this dua of Nabi Ibrahim salam should be in our hearts and on our tongues as well. And then Nabi Ibrahim, he makes a statement, if you will, still part of the dua, but it's kind of like a statement he makes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbi, innahunna adlalna kathiran minan nas. Oh my Rabb, indeed these idols, surely they have led many, many astray from amongst humanity. Faman tabi'ani fa innahu minni. Ya Allah, so make it so that whomsoever follows me, he is of me. And this is the exact same words that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about his sunnah, right? فَمَنْ أَحَبَّ sunnati, that whomsoever loves my sunnah, he will be with me. فَمَنْ تَبِعَنِي فَإِنَّهُ مِنِّي وَمَنْ أَسَانِي فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allahu Akbar. And whosoever disobeys me, about what you think? Whosoever disobeys me, he is not of me. Whosoever disobeys me, Ya Allah, you punish him. No. Whosoever disobeys me, what does Nabi Ibrahim say? فَإِنَّكَ, indeed, you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. You are all forgiving, all merciful. Allahu Akbar. Ajib. So this is a notion that I have no vengeance myself. I have no pettiness myself. I have no right to be against anyone. They're your slaves. If they're disobeying you, it's between you and them. But Ya Allah, what I know about you is that you are all forgiving and all merciful. Allahu Akbar Kabira. This ajib humility. So it means Nabi Ibrahim does not have a spite, atom of spite for anyone in his heart. Yes, obviously those who follow him, he says they will be with me. And those who disobey him, he's only wishing the best for them, that they're disobeying him means they're disobeying Allah Ta'ala, but they're disobeying the being that is Ghafurur Rahim, is all forgiving, all merciful. Then the final dua, and this, the next dua, the next dua. رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْءٍ إِنْ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. So that, oh my Rabb, I have settled, right? Because this is Nabi Ibrahim was guided by the angels to this place, and then Allah Ta'ala revealed to him that you should make this erect the Kaaba. So now he's making dua that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have settled some of my progeny in a valley which is barren, which has no which is unable to be cultivated, that does not have any provision and sustenance in it. but it is near, close thy sacred house. This also shows, right? I mean, to use a modern example, try to live near the masjid even if it may not be the greatest of neighborhoods. I'm not saying it should be safe and crime-free and drug-free and all of that, but it may not be the most affluent of neighborhood in order to be closer to the masjid. So this is what Nabi Ibrahim is doing. He's saying, look, I'm settling my progeny, my children here, but this is a place where it's not, doesn't look like the quality of life is going to be high. But it has one thing, in the Baytik al-Muharram, it is near Baytullah, your sacred, inviolable, sanctified home of worship. Rabbana liyuqimus salata. Why? That, oh my Rabb, so that they may establish salah. This is the first dua and dream of parents for their children and descendants, that they may perform the prayer. They perform the prayer. Then continues the dua, Faj'al af'idatam minan nasi, that Ya Allah incline and cause the hearts of some people to do what? Tahwi ilayhim, to incline towards them. وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. And we had this notion of thamarat before. And provide them with the fruits of your sustenance, so that they may become grateful and appreciative and thankful to you. So to incline people towards Him means, first of all, spiritually, that let my children, and here also, by the way, Zuriya includes Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To incline people towards Him means that let people accept their call. And we know this, that Nabi Ibrahim Islam is Jaddul Anbiya. He is the forefather of thousands of Anbiya. Allahu Alam, but many, many Anbiya. Right up to and including, and first and foremost, greatest Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua. So now Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, imagine when he first heard this revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would be happy that, okay, apparently the people of Makkah Mukarram are not initially accepting me, but I know that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, whom Allah ta'ala loves, who is a Nabi, who is my forefather, he made dua that the people of this area, the Ahl Makkah, that their hearts would incline towards me, because I'm from his dhurriya, I'm from his physical and spiritual progeny. And maybe, indeed, they are some of the Sahaba Ikram, Allah Ta'ala inclined their hearts to accepting Iman because of this very dua of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. So this again shows his extreme foresight and his wisdom of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Alright? And then the sustenance part here, we had covered that earlier. Then verse number 38. Rabbana innaka ta'lamu ma nukhfi wa ma nu'lin. That, O our Rabb, indeed you know what we conceal and what we proclaim. So again, this is an aspect of dua, that you know what's in my heart and why I really want this. And it means sometimes what happens is you have feelings that are more than your words can express. So you saw earlier when we did the tafsir, the other way around, that you know what we say and you know what's in our hearts, right? Or Allah Ta'ala knows what you say and He knows what you conceal. This is the other way around. First, Allah Ta'ala, you know what I conceal and what I say. It means that, look, I can't find words. You know what's in my heart and you know what I'm expressing. وَمَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. And indeed nothing can be concealed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether on earth or whether in the firmaments. Alhamdulillah alladhi wahaba li ala kibari Ismaila. And all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who bestowed and gifted me Ismail wa Ishaqa, Ismail and Ishaq, my two sons, alal kibri, even when I was in old age. Inna Rabbi lasami'ud du'a. And indeed my Rabb is that being who is all hearing and hearkens and hears the caller of all the prayers. Rabbi ij'alni muqima salati. And again, now We firstly prayed for the children's salah, not praying for, and his progeny salah, not praying for own salah. O Allah, make me firmly established on salah. وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, and from amongst my progeny. رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ دُعَا, O my Rabb, accept my dua. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. Again, thinking big. Ya Allah, starting with this, that, oh, forgive my two parents and all the believers on that day when you will establish the reckoning. So this is the dua that many of us, alhamdulillah, would know and should know. And if you don't know, this is one of those things to learn and memorize in Ramadan and to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before you ask anyone that, oh, how can I make sure my children pray? First say, did you make this dua? How many times have you made this dua? Rabbi ij'alni muqima salati wa min dhurriyati. This dua is the first and foremost and number one way we can try to hope that our children become regular in our salah. And if we say it with the understanding of the narrative and try to say it with the same feelings that were in the heart of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, surely, certainly we can hope in Allah Ta'ala's mercy that He will accept that dua and make us and our children both firmly established on salah. So inshallah, we just did these first two passages. Tomorrow night, inshallah, we'll finish the duas of Nabi Ibrahim salam and look at the remaining three passages. May Allah Ta'ala accept us to become people of dua in the month of Ramadan. May He accept our fasting, our prayers, our ibadat, our sitting and teaching and sharing and learning Quran al-Kareem, and may He accept all of the duas of all of the ummah this month, and may He make this month a source of hidayah for all of insan. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.